The Shooting Range. In this episode, pages of history, a long-living piston-engine American, tips and tricks, playing on SPAA tech against tanks, and World War, new season. World War is back. We've corrected a lot of things, added some new features, added new scenarios, and eliminated a number of obstacles that previously prevented players from fully participating in battles. And also, in the new season, ground and air forces in World War are accompanied by ships as well. Moreover, the Navy's duty isn't limited exclusively to naval missions. Squadrons of cruisers can also shell the coast, and coastal artillery can now sink enemy ships. The fleet is also capable of moving assault forces, inflicting surprise attacks on the enemy from the rear. But that's risky. These convoys are very vulnerable, and if they are destroyed, all transported equipment sinks along with them. Furthermore, all the machines participating in the battles are now available to players in their maximum configurations, with all modules and improvements unlocked. It doesn't matter if you have the right equipment in your hangar, and to what extent you've researched the tree of the given nation. Entering the World War mode, you immediately get fully operational equipment. Separate pleasant innovations are prepared for the commanders. Now their role in the battle will be appreciated according to their true value. Commander actions during the operations will be awarded with activity points, and upon its completion, the squadron will receive a rating that will be distributed among all commanders in proportion to the points earned. There is also a rating table for the season's commanders, and according to its results, the best commanders will be selected for awards after the season's finished. Now, how can you become part of World War? Make sure that you have reached the third rank in at least one research tree of any nation. If everything's all right there, go to the Battles menu and select World War. The All Battles button will show you a list of ongoing and upcoming battles. If you're a part of a squadron, you can enter any battle, including ones that your allies don't participate in. The only thing that you won't be able to do, for obvious reasons, is fight against your own squadron. And indeed, why would you? Now, if you're a free player, not bound by any squadron obligations, you can enter any battle on the side. For example, that way you can easily support a squadron that you like, if there's an operation important for its members. Or you leave all this inter-squadron business to other people and simply take part in an interesting battle. By the way, we've added 2 completely new historical scenarios. Anyway, hurry up. The World War is already underway. The second season will last until February 12th, and after that, the most productive squadrons and commanders will be solemnly awarded. During the Second World War, the authority of the Douglas Company on the decks of American aircraft carriers was seriously undermined, to say the least. And if there simply wasn't an option that could replace the Dauntless dive bombers, the Devastator torpedo bombers were being rapidly replaced by the more advanced Avengers made by Grumman. But the most severe blow to the company's position was dealt by Curtiss Helldiver. Not quite finished, flawed, hard to pilot, but proving the fundamental concept, that one could actually successfully combine the 2 functions of a bomber into a single, torpedo dive bomber. And from then on, the Navy only wanted to have such multi-purpose machines. In an attempt to regain leadership, the Douglas Company created their own torpedo dive bomber called the Destroyer. It turned out to be better than the competitor in terms of characteristics, but not enough to justify the rearmament and pilot retraining. Then the aircraft designer Ed Heinemann decided to play preventively and create a carrier-based strike aircraft of the future. According to his idea, it was supposed to be strictly a one-seater, and indeed in many cases, fighter cover proved to be much more expedient than numerous gunners on the same plane. In addition, Heinemann decided not to mess with piston aircraft engines of exotic architectures like the 28-cylinder Wasp Major installed on the Mauler, which was the main competitor of the soon-to-be-named Skyraider. Incredibly powerful, but problematic and unreliable, the Wasp Major became the main reason why the Mauler never went into production. No, to hell with these experiments. Heinemann opted for a simple radial 18-cylinder duplex Cyclone engine, less powerful, but tested out and not just inside the hangars, but on the B-29, the most powerful bomber of that war. As for everything else, it all came down to carefully working out the layout, aerodynamics, and ergonomics. Since the very first Army tests, pilots started leaving rave reviews about the aircraft. But the war came to its end. The jet era of aviation had begun. And one could ask, who would need a piston attack aircraft when you can have a jet one? And the military initially thought the same. The already built Skyraiders were recognized as an anachronism, and the order for their production was greatly reduced. It seemed that this new attack aircraft had no chance of getting even remotely close to the glory of the famous Dauntless. When the war in Korea began, the Skyraiders that were still stationed on the decks of the American aircraft carriers were at first used residually because, well, they gotta fly sometime, right? They still had a lot of flight resources left. Why waste them? But it quickly became clear that the Skyraider was just the perfect aircraft. It was fast enough to respond in time to a request for fire support, but at the same time slow enough to literally leave no stone on the battlefield unturned. It could carry so many bombs and missiles that they could smash an entire tank column to pieces, and at the same time it had enough survivability to withstand intense retaliation from the ground. And most importantly, it was a piston-engine aircraft, which meant that it was both simple and cheap to produce. Sure enough, there was then no way that they would remove the Skyraider from production. The speed of fighter jets has long exceeded Mach 2. White trails of guided missiles were cutting through the sky, and the Skyraider still continued to serve as the modest hard worker of the military aviation. It served from the first and to the last day of the war in Vietnam. Then there were Algeria, Laos, Cambodia. The last time that the Skyraiders were used for their intended purpose was in 1979 during the Civil War in Chad, and they were still quite successful on their combat missions. Self-propelled anti-aircraft machines are a shield that protect ground tech from bombs and rockets of attack aircraft, bombers, and helicopters. Still, anti-aircraft gunners confront enemy tanks quite often. Some SPAAs are better prepared for such meetings, some are worse, and others might seem even more suitable for ground battles than some of them tanks. In this segment, we'll talk about some tricks and nuances that can help in the fight against armored vehicles. For starters, be sure to choose the right ammo. Obviously, against ground targets, it will be either armor-piercing or sub-caliber rounds. Sure, Some SPGs with open cabins, like the American M56 Scorpion, can be destroyed with HE rounds as well, but this is more an exception rather than the general rule. Further actions, for the most part, depend on the weapons that you have. Most World War II SPAAs, as well as many of the modern ones, have small-caliber automatic guns. A typical example is the 40mm Bofors cannon on the American M19, or the 30mm autocannons of the Tunguska. They can't pierce the enemy's frontal armor, so shooting at the side will be much more effective. In addition, the small caliber of anti-aircraft guns is compensated by the ability to fire continuously, while the tanks are forced to regularly exit the battle to reload. Therefore, when dueling at close range, it often makes sense to play aggressively. Wait until the enemy makes a shot, and then immediately roll out towards the target, go around its cover and pepper it with rounds in a couple of seconds. Such arrogance is usually not expected from SPAAs. Therefore, it works more often than you think. Many high-ranking air defense systems also have ammo belts with sub-caliber rounds that can destroy even the light-armored first-generation MBTs. For example, in close combat, the M242 Bushmaster autocannon pierces as many of the tanks built in Western tradition in the front. The main thing is to shoot in short bursts. There are usually very few of these rounds in the ammo load. Also, don't forget to turn off the radar when you don't use it. The rotating antenna can prematurely unmask the machine. Other SPAAs are sometimes armed with heavy caliber barrels that almost seem as if they were naturally designed to destroy armored vehicles. For example, the Soviet Yag-10 truck with a 76mm gun. With machines like that, the tactics are identical to the ones that you'd use on your usual self-propelled tank destroyer. Shoot the enemies from afar and from an inconspicuous position, and sometimes designers combine the lethal power of heavy caliber guns with automation, as for example on the Soviet ZSU-57. Thanks to its high-speed base, the gameplay on that one represents a combination of tactics for a classic SPAA and an actual medium tank. Finally, some SPAAs are armed only with heavy machine guns. For many of them, the ideal tactic against tanks is to run away as fast as they can. There aren't a lot of things as important on the battlefield as the ability to correctly assess one's strength in battle, choose the right targets, and play boldly only when the risk is rationally justified. And remember that the priority task of any AA tech is to protect the airspace while dueling with the enemies on the ground is a situational thing happening from time to time. And now it's time for us to answer your questions that you ask in the comments. The first question was sent by a player called Carol P. Can we get sliding bar to pick up whatever amount of fuel we want? Can't make any promises except this one. We'll definitely make sure that the developers know about this request of yours. Phaser652 writes, Yes, climb up to 7 kilometers, your entire team stays low and gets slaughtered, leaving you to take the enemy team alone. Fast climbing will give you a doubtful tactical advantage, but another thing is doubtful as well. Any tactical maneuver executed fanatically and without thinking won't bring success to your team. Then there's a message sent by Simps. Please do pages of history on the Dole 335. I haven't found much information on it. As you wish. We'll set our historians to research this one for the next couple of episodes. Meanwhile, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And you don't want to miss it, do you? Lasse Thompson has another question. Could you spend some time telling us what your plans are for the Navy battle in, let's say, the next 3 to 9 months? we've got all the time in the world for you. And we've got ginormous plans for 2020, some of which are quite breathtaking. The problem lies in another area. Until anything is officially announced, we simply have no right to share almost any particular information. So, here's all that we can tell you for now. We definitely plan on enriching naval battles with new, exciting content this year. Keep an eye out for those announcements. Moving on to this question from Valakarex. I've been wondering, do you choose the questions or comments that have the most likes, or do you just pick random ones that you would like to answer? Keep up the good work. Of course, we notice the likes. The thing is that a top comment doesn't always contain an actual question. Mostly, they are comments and concerns about the game that people think of the most, as well as some really great ideas and funny jokes. Those concerns and ideas we pass on directly to the dev team, and we're glad to see a good joke as much as any one of you. But when it comes to the hotline, we prefer to pick the questions that we can give substantial answers to. And the last message for today was written by TroublingBird2103. Will my tank explode if my ammo rack was hit while it was filled with smoke shells? Oh, without a doubt it will. It doesn't matter if your ammo consists of explosive, smoke, or even simple solid AP rounds. Any one of these needs something to push it outside the barrel and speed it up to almost 1,000 meters per second in a moment. That requires a significant amount of explosives, and they are precisely the thing that detonates inside the tank in the first place. Well, once again, that's it for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment. So, come on, people. Subscribe, please. Click that bell. Ding-a-ling. Leave a like. And don't forget to check out the second season of The World War. Oh, and leave your thoughts in the comments, of course. See you on The Shooting Range next week.